I'm Bruce Campbell, and I played, I think his name was Ray Tanner on Moontrap.
How would you explain Moontrap in one sentence?
To explain Moontrap in one sentence, all you have to do is say the title. Done.
Got it. And would you be able to describe Moontrap to someone who has never seen it?
Yeah, it's a cool, funky, low-budget science fiction film. And it's very difficult to make low-budget sci-fi, because usually sci-fi is expensive. So if you want to see kind of a cool, weird, pre-digital sci-fi movie, check it out.
How did you first become involved with the project, and what attracted you to the story?
I knew Bob Dyke for a while before making the movie. The movie was in '88 when we shot it. And I think I met Bob probably in the early '80s as a production assistant. I worked for him. You know, he used to be my boss. I did Evil Dead in '79, but it took 4 years to make the movie, so we still had to do other jobs. So most logical thing was to be a production assistant. Bob Dyke did a bunch of commercials. He was known primarily as a commercial producer director. So this was his first foray into making a feature film. So Bob was very familiar with me, and I was very familiar with him by the time we worked together.
Do you have a favorite moment in the story of Moontrap?
I would say that, well, there's a good twist that I don't want to reveal. You know, for those people who have not seen the movie yet. I'm going to give a spoiler, but it's a good twist to it that I think is not what you think is going to happen in this movie.
And if you could, please tell us about your character, Ray Tanner.
Ray was sort of just a hotshot astronaut. You know, Walter played the veteran, and I'm sure at the time, his younger sidekick. He was the veteran astronaut. And I don't know, it's pretty much that. It's he's like a lot of astronauts were. A lot of these guys were cocky because they were very skilled. They had creepy ability to fly vehicles really fast. Not that many people can do that. So a lot of these astronauts were pretty confident guys. So I think that was just partially that.
During Ray Tanner's death scene, a little bit of a giveaway there, what was going through Ray Tanner's mind as he died on the moon's surface, referring to the right before he passes, he erupts into laughter?
Well, when Ray died on the moon, I can't tell you what was going through his mind, but I can tell you what's going through my mind. Death scenes are difficult. It's one thing because you're breathing hard, you're hyperventilating, and then you're supposed to die and go from all this activity to basically no motion whatsoever, and it's almost impossible because you need to take a breath because you've been breathing really hard, and all of a sudden you have to just stop. So you can see actors, you always see the jugular vein. An actor can't stop his blood from pumping. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but so that was dying on the moon. Good place to die. It's one of the best deaths I've had as far as weird place to die or weird way to die.
Awesome.
Not that many actors have died on the moon specifically. Probably only about 6.
Okay.
And you can't count Capricorn 1 because it was fake.
What is your most memorable moment during the filmmaking behind the scenes of Moontrap?
Behind the scenes, it was sort of memorable. They built the moon on a stage, and again, this is before there wasn't a lot of tricky green screen compositing going on. They had to bring in cement because you go, what does moon dust look like? Because when you step into it, it had to have that poofy. Whenever you see the astronauts, it's really fine dust. So they tried like different kinds of dirt. They didn't have any movement to it, but I think concrete. And so probably 5 years from now, I think we're all going to regret inhaling like powdered concrete for a month. But what the heck? It's for art.
Sadly, Moontrap did not win the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. What other awards, real or fictitious, do you think the script merits?
Well, I would give the movie the effort award, because to make a low-budget science fiction film and still using spaceships and landing on the moon and traveling to the moon and guys in suits, it's not cheap to do. two guys sitting around a dinner table you could make cheap. You just shoot in a guy's house, but everything about this had to be fabricated from the ground up. So that's what I'm most impressed with about this movie is the fact that a friend of mine pulled off making a feature film, because making feature films is really difficult, and most people don't realize that, on so many levels, from getting the money to making it to selling it, you know. So I'm very proud of what they were able to pull off for, you know, $12. Because I got half of that. They paid me $6 to do this. They only had $6 to work with. Walter got like $3 or $4 at that point.
What did you find to be the biggest challenge in making this film?
I still think the biggest challenge was when you get into a low budget world, it's just physically figuring out how to do it. If you're making a big Hollywood spectacle, it's not, they'll figure out how to do it, you know, because they'll just throw money at it. So in this case, you know, how do we build the surface of the moon? How do we hide everything? What angles can we film from? And faking a spacesuit, you know. It's, if you do a really lousy job faking it too, then you've really screwed up. Because if you, sci-fi movie, when those are bad, they're the worst. But Bob had a lot of experience doing commercials and faking things in commercials, so he learned a lot of tricks. Bob was, still to this day, is very technically savvy. So I think he knew how to do a lot of this stuff. Bob did the miniature trees and orchestrated the filming of the miniature trees in Evil Dead 2, which was only a couple of years before Moontrap. So Bob, he always had kind of an effects-heavy background. So I think he was able to pull this off with the writer Tex Ragsdale. A, because they were both sci-fi nuts. They just love sci-fi. I think they were huge Trekkies. And so that was the best part of it, that they, in their own low-budget way, they managed to pull off a sci-fi movie in space. I give them a lot of credit. They're fools for trying, but God bless them.
Modern films are filled with a lot of CGI visual effects. Moontrap, we noticed, didn't even have computers on the spaceship. How did you like working, or how do you prefer working or not prefer working with practical effects over CGI?
Practical effects are a little more easy on the imagination. That you're looking at the robot's standing there in the hallway when we had to fight a robot. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of the green screen trickery where now modern day digital movies, you're looking at a tennis ball on a stick so that you're looking at the right place. And that's a terrifying monster. At least when you had the real thing, you kind of were like, they did a good job with it, you go, okay, that's kind of scary. Big, tall robot, yeah. But I guess in a way it's more challenging to do the digital stuff because you have to imagine what it's going to look like. Someone's going to show you a picture of what it's going to look like. But you have to totally use your imagination. So it was fun. I was sort of used to making movies that way.
This movie brought together the two worlds of Star Trek and Evil Dead for fans. Are you a Star Trek fan yourself?
I was a huge Star Trek fan. My brother and I basically watched every episode, every time it was on, and all through syndication. And it's a real treat now to, I met Walter Koenig first, and then by doing conventions, I pretty much run into the rest of them, and I run into Bill Shatner like every other week, it seems like now. So it was really a treat to work with Walter because it's like, yeah, I was a huge fanboy of that show. I mean, that was my formative years watching that show. So it meant a lot. It was cool, and it was smart of them as filmmakers to get Walter Koenig. If you can't get William Shatner, get Walter Koenig. You know, get one of them. Get one of those guys. And you know, Walter was a good actor. He's had a lot of stage training, and I think it was fun to him too to finally be the captain. I'll be honest with you. I think a little bit he was kind of going, yeah, I'm the captain around here now, huh? I'll give you some orders. What do you think of that? So I think he had fun playing the role. He wasn't the, you know, guy over Kirk's shoulder anymore. He was running the operation.
Great. So then I would say you were excited to fly as co-pilot to Ensign Chekhov?
Yeah, it's very exciting to share the screen with anybody that you liked as a kid or something. You know, these are all dreams come true. They're all shattered by some horrible reality, of course. But you know, Walter was a very pleasant guy. You know, it was a nice experience. It wasn't anything depressing about that. But it was it's really, it's always a special treat to finally get to work with people that you watched as a kid.
For sure. Were you ever tempted to call him Chekhov by accident?
I was never tempted to call him Chekhov because I know I hate it when people call me Ash, so I don't call him that. And whenever I talk to any of these guys, if I met these guys, I would never bring up the thing that they are mostly known for. Like with Walter, if I didn't know him, I'd ask him about theater. Tell me about doing theater, you know. And with Shatner, when I finally met him, I'm like, I'm not going to bring up Star Trek. I'm not. Those two words are not going to come out of my mouth because he's just going to roll his eyes like, you know, here goes another schmo. I talked to him about T.J. Hooker, so I got him because nobody talks about T.J. Hooker,
Yeah.
and his eyes were like, wow, T.J. Hooker, yeah. Because I asked him how he did the power slides. He always would do these power slides, and then at crime scenes, and they would hold on the shot long enough to see that it was actually Shatner who got out. So I'm like, you did these power slides? He went, yeah, I did. They told me not to do them, but I did them anyway. So he told me how he feathered down the emergency brake, and he could do without it locking up. So he could do a certain move with the emergency brake and a certain move with the regular brake. So I know now never to hit famous people with what they're famous for. You'll get to that later.
For sure.
Get them something that they don't even think about.
Were you jealous that Walter got to kiss Lee Lombardi? And what did you do to upset director Bob Dyke so that you weren't the one that got to kiss Lee Lombardi?
Well, Walter was the star of the movie, so he's the guy who's going to kiss the girl, you know. So there's no... It was okay that he got to do it. If you're the star, you get special privileges. And Lee was a hottie then. I'm sure she's a hottie now. And she was a very curvaceous girl who had... There was a lot to look at. I'm amazed he got through the scene, frankly. I'd be looking at her boobies the whole time. But that's just me, you know. I'm glad he got to do it. I'm jealous a little, frankly. But he described everything to me, so it's fine. I got to hear all about it.
No sketches or anything?
He took some secret photos.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get those.
I've got them. They're pretty good.
He said he just looked in her eyes.
Yeah. You lied.
Liar.
Lied like a rug.
Okay, let me see here. Okay, was Bob Dyke already in development for Moontrap when you met him on the set of Evil Dead 2? Well, we already know that you met him long before that, sorry. Were you cast during the Evil Dead movie while it was filming? Or did it come to be?
You know, I'm not sure how long it took Bob to get this project together. I'm sure it took a year or so to raise the money and do all that. So I think I'd probably heard of it by 87-ish, but then it didn't finally happen until 88. And Bob already knew everything about Evil Dead 2 because he was working on it. So, you know, it was like, oh yeah, I'm working with Bob again. That's how often I work with him. So it was a pretty easy situation.
Did you know that Moontrap still has a big fan base worldwide?
Honestly, I don't sign a lot of Moontrap stuff. I get a lot of Evil Dead stuff. So you're still people are gonna bring up what they like the most, you know. If you go to a sci-fi convention though, I'll see them. I'll see them pop up. But, you know, and an actor usually never knows how popular something is around the world. Walter apparently has done a lot in Europe, touring and doing appearances, and he says, places like Germany they go crazy for it. There's just certain cultures that just love certain genres. And so I think he's had a chance to see it because he's done a lot more touring. But I would imagine it's in there somewhere in the hall of science fiction movies. You know, Moontrap will be up there.
In Moontrap, your line, the line that we like to quote anyway, is, we don't take no shit from the machine. Do you actually have a hatred of machines? Or technology, for that matter?
I know my character says we don't take no shit from no machines a couple times. I don't really have any issue with machines. I like technology. Technology has helped a lot. And the filmmaking alone from 1988, 26 years later, is astoundingly different. So I've embraced every bit of it because it doesn't make for better movies, but it makes for, you can get a lot more stuff done in a shorter period of time and it's a lot easier. So it's interesting to watch how things change over that period of time and to look back, you know.
For sure.
What the hell was the original question?
Oh,
Do you really dislike machines?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So to sum up, I would say no, I don't have an issue with machines. Because look, the machine is whatever the intent is behind it. There are some machines, like if you can call a gun a machine, it's designed for a very specific thing. That machine I'd be afraid of. I'm afraid of guns. Guns scare me. Call me old-fashioned. Other machines are like a car, could be dangerous or very helpful. So, but we need machines. We need more. That way, people don't have to do drudgery. We should sit around and be eating grapes. Let machines work in factories and dig ditches. The heck with that.
I'm there with you.
You know?
Yeah. So I guess so you're saying it's like the intent behind the technology is what matters.
I believe so. Like there are some machines that I would not like, and there are some machines that I would like. But it's the intent, I think, behind them. What is that machine designed to do? Help me or hurt me? And some are designed both. So, and that's the gun argument. Is that machine designed to help me or hurt me?
Sorry, drinking some water and I choked on it.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
All right. Sorry, we're done with that. That's right.
You had mentioned earlier, every once in a while, like a sci-fi convention, fans will come up to you and actually bring up Moontrap. Are there any like general questions that fans like to ask you about Moontrap when you do run into them?
Probably what's it like, what was Walter Koenig like? That's all people really care about, is if they know an actor that they like, what was he really like? They always want the dirt. So I gave him plenty about Walter. How he was cruel to children and animals during the shoot. Yeah, a lot of violence.
I think I noticed the ASPCA thing at the end.
No.
According to our bit of IMDb research, it said that there was 5 movies, so that you had 5 movies that released in 1989. Were you working on any other movies alongside of Moontrap at the same time, and if so, did that make that difficult?
When Moontrap got made, it was a busy time period for me. I had mostly lived in Detroit until about 87, and the joke in Detroit was, if you want to work as an actor in Detroit, you can't be from Detroit. Because if you're in Detroit, they figure you're not that serious of an actor, that you haven't left. So the joke was, in order to work in Detroit, you had to leave. And then they'd bring you back. So literally, it was a year later, I just left Michigan for the first time. I'm living officially in California, and now they had to bring me back to Michigan to work on a movie. So I'm like, see, it's true. The old adage is true. But it was really fun to come back knowing that I lived in California now, and that they had to fly me in and put me up because I didn't live there anymore. Like, Bob couldn't just tell me to come from my own damn house and give me nothing. Now he had to give me a thing called per diem. Cough it up, Bob, baby. So that was a very fun experience to come back, and I have a soft spot for independent filmmakers. Making independent movies is more difficult than making movies for studios because it's way more challenging. You don't have a studio to bail you out when you get in trouble. So I had just moved to California at that time, and got a call from Moontrap. Very excited to go back and do that. And it was kind of nice to start working because I had done the Evil Dead movies. We had done Evil Dead 2 at that point. So I'd done like 3 movies. But this is, having gone to California, I started to get into the business, started to get a couple of parts like Maniac Cop and things like that. But I was still working at a beer plant. I was still, broke as hell. And it was a good gig to actually go back and get. It was nice. I think at that time, I think I needed the cash, so it was pretty good timing too. And Bob had to pay me more than a production assistant, which they don't get paid hardly anything. Now I had a rate. I had an actual rate. I could go, no, Bob, you're not paying me $12 an hour. You're gonna pay me like $15 an hour.
Getting the big time.
Yeah.
Do you have any other messages for the fans of Moontrap?
I think anybody who likes sci-fi will like this movie. It's a very interesting story. I haven't really seen that angle done before, and it's I think it's fun sometimes watching obscure movies because they can be entertaining in their own special way. And this film hasn't been out for a while, I don't think, so it's good to gonna get it reintroduced into people's brains. Maybe we'll see how they accept a 26-year-old sci-fi movie, especially with how different they are now. I can't even imagine. It'll probably be very nostalgic watching it. It'll make you think of all your favorite movies from the 80s or something. I don't know. I'm sure it looks like an 80s movie. You know? I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. Movies tend to age well or not age well. I think this one has aged pretty well. Because at least it's an interesting concept. That if it's not the biggest budget, at least, you know, Tex Ragsdale and Bob, they told an interesting story, I thought.
For sure. We were told that the first place that this is going to be released is Germany. And you had mentioned German fans before, but do you have any last words for the German fans who will get the first, opportunity to own this on DVD?
I would say to all the German fans, we hope you enjoy the hell out of this, especially if you're sci-fi fans, which it seems like you are. This might be something that you can add to your library after all this time.